All right, y'all, let's get into it. So I don't want to sit here and act like I'm a know-it-all about everything, about every topic. Okay. So foreign policy is not necessarily a topic that I know everything about, but I feel like I know as much about it as anybody viewing this video right now. Like, I feel like we all are watching what's going on right now from the same lens as people who live in this country and how does it affect me. But one thing I do know about is that the American government expects us not to look into things. They expect us to hear something and just not even ask questions or not even like think twice about it. Especially after the last 2 years, I start to look into things a little bit more. So let's get into this right now. Okay, we're going to watch a little bit of this interview with Jake Sullivan, and they're going to talk to the American people on Face the Nation, but they're talking to the American people about the war that might be imminent in Ukraine. Anyway, let him do the talking.
We go now to the White House National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan. Good morning to you, Jake.
Good morning.
You were on that hour-long call between President Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin. There were no breakthroughs. Is there any reason to believe Putin is going to take any of the diplomatic options you've given him?
Look, I'm not going to predict what Vladimir Putin's going to do. All I can do is make sure that we're prepared to respond either way. If Russia wants to continue engaging diplomatically to find a way forward to address their security concerns and our security concerns, we're prepared to do that. If Russia decides instead to take major military action against Ukraine, we're prepared to respond decisively.
But there's no diplomacy underway right now. There's nothing that came out of yesterday's call.
As far as we're concerned, the United States of America, diplomacy is still open and available. But if Russia chooses to move, we're prepared to respond.
You said an attack by Russia could happen as soon as this week. Are you seeing Russian troops move into tactical positions?
We have seen over the course of the past 10 days a dramatic acceleration in the buildup of Russian forces and the disposition of those forces in such a way that they could launch a military action essentially at any time. They could do so this coming week, but of course, it still awaits the go order. And so therefore, we cannot predict the precise day or time that they may take action. We also are watching very carefully for the possibility that there is a pretext or a false flag operation to kick off the Russian action in which Russian intelligence services conduct some kind of attack on Russian proxy forces in eastern Ukraine or on Russian citizens and then blame it on the Ukrainians.
All right. So that's really what I've been hearing. That's been the most of the discussion. So what's going on apparently is that there's Russian troops that are lining up on the borders of Ukraine. And your first thought is, why the hell do I care? Right? Right? That's a normal thought for somebody who lives here. Right? So that's still my thought, even after paying attention to everything that's going on. But whatever, let's break down a little bit of what he said. So they asked about diplomatic options. I won't predict what Vladimir will do. So Americans want to stay American government wants to stay neutral. Like we'll be diplomatic with Russians as long as they be diplomatic. Again, so I guess there's this thing called NATO that a lot of countries are involved in, but Russia isn't. And they're setting up bases in places. And the American government is really invested in making sure Ukraine's borders won't be infiltrated by Russia. Again, why the hell should I care, right? I mean, and that's a real question that deserves answers that we probably will never get. So, they're not predicting anything really about. They don't want to predict too hard about the diplomatic stuff, but I noticed that they want to predict about Russia probably attacking as soon as this week. Mind you, this was done this morning. This interview, I saw another interview with another Pentagon official who's like, yo, straight up and down any day now. But I mean, those are some hard predictions that Russia's going to attack Ukraine anytime this week. Why the hell should I care? Okay. There's a reason in the end, though, why I'm going to tell you why actually you should care. I'm going to tell you why you should care. But it's not going to be the reason that the government tells you why you should care. Okay. And they say Russia's going to do false flags. We have intelligence that tells us that Russia is going to do false flags. And that'll be like the flashpoint, like the reason for them invading Ukraine. And okay, so a couple of things too. And then they say Americans need to get out now. They need to get out now because basically, like, we know how bad we looked with that Afghanistan thing, and but we're letting you know now, like, we're not gonna be able to save you if you're still out there and they get into war. All right, let's break this down. It's funny because as I've been paying attention to what's been going on, the Ukrainian president, who I have not seen now since he's made this statement, I haven't seen anything on him in the media, but he said, I don't know what's going on with America, but we all right over here. Like, I mean, it's not that deep. Like, there's a little bit of a, a tension, but it's not that deep. And Ukrainian residents are even still going to bars and they're still going to pubs and they're hanging out. So, and all of this, right? All of this is we predicting that this is going to happen this week. Well, what's making you think that? Well, we have intelligence that's letting us know, and we've looked at the satellites and intelligence that's letting us know that this is going to happen. Well, where's the intelligence? What's classified? What's declassified? There was something like this with the reporter. Well, we're telling you. And so that's all the intelligence you need to know. I've been here before. I have, and we'll talk about that. So basically, to wrap this up in a tight bow, I'm pretty sure this week we're going to hear something serious happened over in Ukraine. It's funny, the White House now does not talk about Kobh anymore. My concern isn't even really with the Russian military, because this is 2022. Our gas lines were hacked and they were shut down. Our gas lines were shut down. Y'all remember that? And everybody had bags of gas in their car and everybody was saving gas and and it was like crazy, right? They came down and they said that this was Russian hackers who did this, but we never did anything about it. You know what I'm saying? If we wanted to go into something with Russia, that would have been a good time, but we didn't do anything about it. And in fact, Biden had sent over a list to Putin of the things that they're not supposed to hack. Okay, don't hack these things. Okay, so he gave them the hack list. Okay, those Russian hackers, instead of just, like, I don't really believe that we're going to have bombs flying over our head, but I do believe that they will hack into our systems. For the lack of a better term, let's have fun with this, right? What if, I don't know, maybe we did that to ourselves and said Russia did it? Why not? Why not? I'm not promoting anything that's mean. I'm not trying to say anything about military people, but I'm talking about greed. Greed will make you do silly things. It will make you sell your own family out. I can't help that I go by the examples that have been given to me. I'm 38 years old and I lived through a time called 9/11. Okay, let's talk about it. On 9/11, September 11th, 2001, we saw two planes hit the World Trade Center, another one hit the Pentagon, and another one like fall somewhere in Pennsylvania. There are a lot of questions about what happened that day. There are a lot of questions. But anyway, but what we don't question is people died. People died. People died. It looked like the end of the world. It did. You had people falling out, like flying out of buildings, and it just flying to their death because it was either that or burn alive. It was still to now the biggest like atrocity I think I've seen, like mainstream, like mass, like casualties. It was bad. It was really bad. It was bad. And those optics had everybody being like, nah, y'all can't come here and start, because they told us that it was terrorists who did this. And so everybody was pretty much on that tip for the most part. Now y'all can't come here and just breaking our buildings and killing us and everything. Like, we're all Americans. And that's the last time, for real, around that time is when I heard people chanting USA, like everybody, like all Black, white, Asian, China, Puerto Rico, it didn't matter. Everybody was like, I'm an American and we got to fight for our country. On the Friday after 9/11, President George W. Bush visited New York City site that the world would come to know as Ground Zero. After rescue workers shouted that they couldn't hear him as he spoke to them through a bullhorn, he turned toward them and ad-libbed, "I can hear you," he shouted. "The whole world hears you. And when we find these people who knock these buildings down, they'll hear all of us soon." Everybody roared. At a prayer service later that day, he outlined the clear objective tasks ahead. Our responsibility to history is already clear: to answer these attacks and to rid the world of evil. Okay, rid the world of evil, right? So there we go. So everybody was in, and that was the thing that happened that made everybody like, oh my God, George Bush is a good guy. You know what I'm saying? Because we just wanted to feel a sense of normalcy, because it was like, buildings was coming down, like we felt like we were under attack. Okay. And so now we were like, we ready to do whatever. Now, of course I didn't enlist. I'm over here talking about we were ready to do whatever. Of course I didn't enlist, but it was that tragic where you can see why mad people went to the army. Vice President Dick Cheney offered his own vengeful promise. We also have to work, though sort of a dark side, if you will. He told the host, Tim Russert, we've got to spend time in the shadows in the intelligence world. A lot of what needs to be done here will have to be done quietly, without any discussion, using sources and methods that are available to our intelligence agencies. If we're going to be successful, he added, that's the world these folks operate in. And so it's going to be vital for us to use any means at our disposal. And that right there opened up everything that you see today, okay? And not to get into like a long discussion about that situation, but what happened was like, okay, they got us on the emotional tip. We was like, we ready to do whatever. Next thing I know, they said it was Saudi Arabia or something. I can't remember which one of those countries, but it wasn't the one that we went to. They said that it was some, Saudi Arabia or something who had something to do with this, but we went into Iraq instead. Because all of a sudden, they told us weapons of mass destruction. Saddam Hussein was working with bin Laden. They fed us, and people enlisted and went to war. People died. People came back with missing limbs. The reason why today, a lot of you kids, whoever's watching this, if you probably either weren't born yet, or maybe you were like 1 or 2. The reason why today, when you want to go down to Miami and have a good time, but you need to get to the airport like hours before your flight because you got to get checked for some check that does absolutely nothing for real, as far as I'm concerned, is because of 9/11. Okay, that changed everything. And when he said we need to use whatever forces, any means necessary, okay, they did. And it's something called a Patriot Act, and all of a sudden it was like, we can go and we can just get into your private life without your permission. Okay, all in the name of the war on terror. It went from we're gonna find the people who did this to the war on terror. Once you give it that means it's broad, and that's why we ended up occupying a country, Afghanistan, for 20 years, and then we just left. We left, and then when we left, people were holding on to airplanes. It was a mess the way how we left after 20 years. And I remember in 2018, I remember when I was 18 thinking like, all right, we going to war. Okay, well, we're going to war with Iraq, but like, I don't understand. And I thought there was something wrong with me for not understanding why we was going to war with Iraq. But then I realized as I got older, like all of us didn't understand. Okay. Oh, and then later, before we left Afghanistan, it came out that there were no weapons of mass destruction. They actually make a joke about it. Okay. So I'm not saying that the American government did 9/11, but I will say they knew that it was going to happen. There were some intelligence agencies who knew, and they kept the information from others. There's so much to go into with that thing, but it wasn't stopped. And it worked. It worked for 20 years. We occupied a place that we had no business being in under the guise of war on terror. Oh, by the way, now the terror has come home. That's another video. This is why when I see we're getting ready to mess around, Russia's acting up. And I'm like, you sure? So what can I do about it, right? Nothing, right? We can't do anything about this. So it's like, hey, it is what it is. What you need to do is now get your supplies. Not go to, go to the market and get all this meat and all this, go over. No, I didn't say that, but have a good set of some stuff, some paper towels, some dry goods, just have some stuff. Flashlights, batteries, what is solar powered things. I'm serious. I am, because this is 2022. I don't think it's insane to be prepared for something. So that's all we can do, right? Because we're not in there making these decisions. We're not going to make the big bucks too when these places get funded with weapons. We don't work in Lockheed Martin. We don't have stock in Raytheon, but we need to be prepared. We need to have our families prepared. Just be prepared. Just be prepared. That's all I'm saying. All right, guys. So I wanted to drop this off because on this channel, we got to talk about everything because this stuff does affect us. In the long run, it will affect us. It will. So we should talk about it. All right. Thank you for coming. I'll see you guys at the next video. Bye.